I'm Michael Henry, and in this video, I'm going to help you answer the question, am I addicted to sugar? When it comes to sweets, the sugary white powder, or any type of dessert, the question and problem that comes up for a lot of people is whether or not they're addicted to sugar. So, in this video, we're going to cover the 5 signs for you to determine whether or not you are addicted to sugar, as well as the 3 causes of sugar addiction. Let's start with the 3 causes of sugar addiction. Number 1, your reward system. Whenever we have sweet foods, whether it be obvious ones like desserts, pastries, candies, or other foods that might have hidden sugar in it, what happens is the taste buds on our tongue, which control the sweet receptors, end up sending a signal to our brainstem, which activates the reward system. The reward system is what triggers that happiness feeling or that good feeling that we feel whenever we're eating sweets. What ends up happening is the dopamine is released into our brain, which stimulates this feel-good emotion. The problem is not that the sugar is activating the reward system, because that's okay. That's the feel-good thing that we want. It's whenever we eat too much or in excessive amount of sugar, which ends up overactivating this reward system. This will typically result in loss of control, intense cravings, as well as an increased tolerance to sugar. Which leads me into the second cause of sugar addiction, whenever your sugar tolerance increases and your palate changes. Like most substances, whenever we consume a lot of that one particular thing, our tolerance for it is going to increase, similar to sugar. So if we're eating an excessive amount of sugar, our tolerance for it is going to increase as well, which means in order for us to get that same pleasure and that same taste, we're going to need to eat more in order to reach that threshold. Additionally, your palate and your taste buds are going to adjust as well. So whenever you're eating an excessive amount of sugar, you're going to need to eat more sugar in order for those taste receptors to activate. This is why it seems like some people have a stronger ability to taste the sweetness in certain foods or desserts than other people do, because the tolerance for those sugars have increased. You should also know that smoking alters your taste buds and your palate as well. So whenever you do smoke, those receptors on your tongue will end up getting damaged, and therefore you're going to need to eat more sugar in order to actually taste the sweetness from the foods. And finally, the third cause of sugar addiction is convenience. In the world that we live in today, society is filled with the convenience of having quick carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, and sugars basically everywhere we go, everywhere we turn. So it's very hard for us to avoid eating these simple sugars, not only because of the addiction and the craving towards them, but mostly because they're everywhere we look. So this is a big contributor to why people are constantly craving sweets, because they're always around us. So there you have it. Those are the 3 causes of sugar addiction: activating the reward system, increased tolerance to sugar or your palate changes, as well as the convenience of having sugar basically everywhere around us. So now we're going to move into the 5 signs for you to determine whether or not you have a sugar addiction. Number 1, you're constantly eating sweets. Now, it might not be so obvious to you how many sweets you're eating throughout the day, because a lot of the time there's sugars that are actually added in the foods that we're eating. But if you were to take a step back and answer the question, how many foods or snacks am I eating throughout the day that would be considered sweet? Number 2, you crave simple or quick carbohydrates. If you find yourself craving fruit juices, sweet drinks, pastries, cookies, baked goods, or even refined foods like white pasta, white bread, or white rice, this is another strong indicator on whether or not you have a higher tolerance of sugar and therefore maybe a dependency or addiction towards sugar. Number 3, making excuses and justifying your habit. A lot of the times you don't even realize that we have some sort of dependency or addiction towards sugar because we're in denial. A lot of the times we're justifying our own actions and our habits through saying things like, well, it's healthy. The label says that it's healthy. If you catch yourself making up excuses and trying to justify reasons in order to eat certain foods that you know deep down are not necessarily going to be honoring your health, then this is another strong indication that you might have a dependency towards sugar. Number 4, using sweets as a reward. Rewarding yourself whenever you're working on good habits or you've accomplished something is a great way to stay motivated and continue to progress forward. The problem is not necessarily that we're rewarding ourselves, it's how often we're rewarding ourselves, and if it's always justified. If you find yourself going to the gym and saying, well, now that I've gone to the gym, I'm able to go home and eat that dessert that I really wanted, this is a good example of using sugar as a reward. Now you just need to stop and ask yourself, how often does this happen, and how often is it actually justified to use sugar or sweets as a reward? Number 5, eating or binging when you're alone. In the movie Home Alone, you may remember that when Kevin is all by himself in the house, he's constantly eating sweets, whether it be ice cream, chocolate bars, or some sort of desserts, mostly because his parents aren't there and he won't get in trouble. Now, if you catch yourself home alone and you're constantly craving these sweets and find yourself binging or overeating on sugary sweet foods, This is another strong indication that you have a dependency or a slight addiction towards sugar. So there you have it, the 5 signs on whether you have a dependency or an addiction towards sugar. You're constantly eating sweets, you're craving those simple or quick carbohydrates, you're making excuses and justifying your habit, you're using sweets as a reward, or you're eating or binging on sweets when you're home alone. Thanks so much for watching. If you're new to this channel, click the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you liked this video, give us a thumbs up and help us grow this channel as much as possible so that we can help as many people as possible improve the quality of their health and their life.